Which of these was not a trend in the 2000s? So trucker hats, high-rise jeans, halter tops, or lace-up jeans. Yep. So high-rise jeans, low-rise jeans were, but not high-rise. So yeah. Mm-hmm. True or false? High School Musical was released in 2006. True. Yes, it was. Great times. Mm-hmm. What was the top song of the decade according to Billboard? Toxic by Britney Spears, Cry Me a River by Justin Timberlake, We Belong Together by Mariah Carey, or Our Song by Taylor Swift? Okay. Yeah, so as We Belong Together, we all got this wrong too when we first took it, so surprising, but yeah. Which of these was a makeup trend in the 2000s? Frosted lip gloss, thick eyebrows, contouring, fox eye eyeshadow. Yep, so frosted lip gloss was the correct answer. Good job. True or false? Phineas and Ferb was a major TV show in the 2000s. Yeah, false. So yeah, I think it was after like 2010 during that time, but which of these was not a popular hairstyle in the 2000s? Butterfly clips, bump bits, curtain bangs, or crimped hair? Curtain bangs. Good job. Yeah. Do you prefer the fashion hair makeup trends of the 2000s or of now? Yeah. So we couldn't figure out a way to make it where they were all right. So if you're good for now, sorry if y'all got it wrong, but okay. So do podium. Nice. Okay, good job. And now we have a video of our presentation. So
Okay, so we are group one and we have the 2000s, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay. And we just did our Kahoot, so we already did that. So we're going to start off with the work trends in the 2000s. So one of the major things that happened was in 2007, the minimum wage increased for the first time in 10 years. So it went from $5.15 an hour to $5.85 an hour, which doesn't really sound like a lot, but back then it was a big deal. And the minimum wage continued to increase by 70 cents a year until 2009, and that's when it reached $7.25, which I'm pretty sure it still is today. So it hasn't changed from that in quite a while. In 2008, the economy crashed. So some of you probably remember that gas prices were really high. A lot of people who worked at factories were getting laid off or losing their jobs. So we're still kind of recovering from that today. So it was a big strain on the economy and people who maybe lost their jobs or were trying to find a job. And then I found a little fact. They projected that 78,000 OTs would be around in the year 2000. And today's number for 2019, it was 143,000. So I thought it was kind of cool. Our profession has almost doubled in this time. So we've really made some leaps and bounds.
So as far as education goes within the 2000s, we see a big change happening after 9/11. It definitely changed the environment. There was a serious push on security just to ensure that schools were being safe. There was in-depth emergency drills put in place. Accessibility to buildings was definitely not the same. It was not as come and go as it once was before. And then with teachers and students both in such a big state of shock and fear, there was definitely a need for focusing on mental health. So this also opened the door for OTs to come into schools and kind of revitalize the way that healthy mental health looks like. And then shortly after 9/11, there was the No Child Left Behind Act. It was put in place to hold schools accountable for how children were performing. So instead of just having a low performer student not just stay in the same place, there was standardized testing where children could actually improve and see what they needed to focus on. Also, there was the Harry Potter trilogy. So this was a really big thing, a really big trendy thing that happened in schools. So not only did this spark interest for reading in a lot of students, but it also enhanced their literacy skills, as well as their imagination. And all these books definitely played a big role in a lot of people's childhood. Another thing was technology. So with the boom of the internet, teaching methods were definitely changing. Instead of having this direct teaching approach with the teacher just lecturing, you were able to have the children also kind of interact as well. So teaching was very engaging. And then we saw things like smart boards, e-readers, Khan Academy. These were things that were very popular and becoming hot topics.
Yeah, so for play and leisure, exercise was popular during this time. Yoga, especially because it was really accessible for everyone at all levels. Exergaming became popular, which was a really cool way for people to just kind of honestly just get off the couch and do something. And it was a way that integrated games while also getting fit at the same time. So it was really fun. And then CrossFit also was founded in 2000. And then it kind of reached its peak during this era just because of the high numbers of injuries that can result with it, because it's very intense. Another thing that was popular during this time was razor scooters and Keeleys. And I mean, they were just the best things, honestly. But with a fun thing or interesting thing about Keeleys is that like they got banned from schools a lot because there was a lot of concerns as far as kids falling and hitting their heads, and just the fact that a lot of teachers kind of were like, you shouldn't be skating in schools. A lot of malls actually banned them too. And then another popular trend during this time was the Livestrong wristband trend, which really helped to support cancer survivors facing their emotional, practical, and financial challenges during this time. And it was a way that everyone kind of felt connected and like they were doing something, and they were really affordable, so it was easily accessible for everyone to do. And it actually inspired other nonprofit organizations such as the American Red Cross and the Breast Cancer Fund to come up with their own wristbands in order to raise money for their organizations. And then also popular during this time was computer or video games, such things as like Wii, PlayStation, and Xbox that became really popular during this time. And games associated with that too, with Guitar Hero was very popular a lot. So fun, you get to just pretend to be a musician, and it was really cool. And other popular computer games were The Sims, which is basically like just playing kind of Barbie online a little bit. You kind of just got to do whatever you wanted with your life. If you wanted it to be like how you live now, if you wanted to do something completely different, and it was really cool way, and it's actually still continuing on now. People can still play that. And then also Redkins. And I just remember Redkins being really awesome and fun and great. And it's just a fun way to integrate and just be online and kind of talking with people and just playing games and stuff like that. So.
Okay, so I researched a few pieces of legislation that were signed during the early 2000s. The first one is the Developmental Disabilities Assistance and Bill of Rights Act of 2000. So this piece of legislation was signed into effect on October 30th of 2000. The shorthand that they use for this is the DD Act. It was designed to empower individuals with developmental disabilities. The DD Act programs point their focus towards researching technology to come up with new delivery strategies for these individuals. They can then bring this research and the resources to individuals who can make the most use out of it and who can make these resources actually available to the disabled individuals. A specific program under this act is the State Protection and Advocacy System. This program works at the state level to ensure that individuals with developmental disabilities are protected and advocated for. They advocate for things such as their personal and civil rights. This amendment included that individuals with developmental disabilities would receive care without the threat of abuse, neglect, sexual or financial exploitation, or violations of legal and human rights. And another piece of legislation that we are all pretty familiar with is the Patriot Act, which was signed after the terrorist attack on 9/11. So this was signed into effect on October 26th of 2001. The purpose of this was to basically crack down on and to control terrorism in the United States. With this law in place, it allows investigators to use tools that are already available to them to detect organized crime and drug trafficking. So, for example, this gives law enforcement the right to use surveillance footage when they are investigating crimes that are related to things like terror.
So there was a huge boom in technology in the early 2000s, which kind of came along with internet. But so a big thing right before the 2000s was the Y2K bug, which was caused by software in the 70s was written in computers. The years were only the last two digits. So for 1970, it'd be at 70, not the complete four digits. So the fear would be once the clocks hit 2000, the computers would all read them as 1900. And so some places where there was a fear of that was with banks and their interest rates, power plants with scheduled computer safety checks, such as radiation levels and H2O pressure. Another big area was transportation, as far as like airlines and trying to schedule flights. And even medical equipment, such as anesthesia equipment, was thought to would have a problem when the clocks hit midnight. So the U.S. poured a lot of money into to fix the problem, and there was relatively little that was a problem in the 2000s with that. In 2004, Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook, and it really boomed because it allowed the younger generation to get online and meet people people. And the older generations also really enjoyed it because it's user friendly. And it's a really good area to go to get connections or Facebook groups and to do networking. In 2005, YouTube was also created and it became the first free video sharing platform and can be used both for entertainment and education, which really brought in a lot of doors for people. In 2007, the iPhone was released, and in 2008, the App Store was also created. And with these, you saw a decline in cell companies such as BlackBerry and Nokia, which had been really big up until then. But the iPhone allowed for access to the internet anywhere you are. You didn't need to be with a computer. And in 2009, the Fitbits were also created, which kind of supported the health craze going on in that time.
Okay, so some of the social perspectives in the 2000s. So one of the major events that we all think of is 9/11. So the terrorist attack was September 11th in 2001. And I know I'm not old enough to remember it, so most of you probably don't, but a few of you might. So once this happened, everyone was just really scared. It was a big deal, and everyone was scared if it would happen again. So one of the first things, we were not, up until this point, actively engaged in any wars. And we all know after 9/11 happened, we went to war almost immediately. And we're actually still ongoing with this war today. So a lot of people were for the war. Some people didn't think we should go to war. And we still struggle with that today. Airport security was also another thing that changed. Before 9/11 happened, you could just basically walk into the airport, do a few things, and catch your flight. And we all know today that airport security is kind of a pain, a necessary pain, but a pain. So that's when you start having to take your shoes off and have your bags checked and go through metal detectors and those type of things. And the number of deportations also increased. They almost doubled actually after 9/11 happened. And again, that was simply because of fear. Everyone was really scared at this time. And I think we still see a lot of the repercussions from this even today. So there were several changes in healthcare during the 2000s. One of these was a piece of legislation that was the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005. So the passage of this says that states can now modify Medicaid plans in a way that could negatively or positively affect both family and early childhood developmental services that are available to them. Families now have to meet certain criteria or benchmarks that are income-based for coverage options for disabled children under the age of 19. Before this act, states were prohibited from charging individuals a premium cost, but now they can charge premiums on any non-exempt children or parents depending on where their income falls. These premiums are capped at 5% of a family's income if they are not financially capable of paying. This law could ultimately both allow states to expand coverage options and potentially hurt children or family access to healthcare all in one. Another change in healthcare was a piece of legislation, which is the Medicare Modernization Act, Part D. So Part D of the Medicare insurance plan essentially acts as an insurance plan, but it only covers your prescription medications. So it is known as a standalone drug insurance. The plan was set up to implement that the beneficiary would only be responsible for 25% of their drug costs, like their annual drug costs, and then Part D would then cover the other 75%. So there's also another part of the Part D plan that covers what are called catastrophic drug inquiries. So with the price of drugs increasing even in the 2000s as they did today, this plan ensures that the highest amount annually that a person could spend out of pocket on their prescription drugs would be $4,950. And so that means that Part D would then cover the rest. So in total, that would mean that the annual cost for the individual prescriptions would be $7,500, and they would basically almost cut that in half, and the Part D plan would cover the rest of these.
So in the field of OT, in 2000, ASCOTA changed its name to ASD, or the Association of Student Delegates. And that same year, occupational therapy was recognized as a core discipline, specifically working with people with genetic conditions. And then in 2002, we established a fund to promote awareness of occupational therapy. In 2005, AOCTE got complete control of setting standardizations for educational programs before they shared it with AOTA. And in 2006, the AOTA adopts the Centennial Vision, which we now know has since passed.
So an important person that we chose within this decade is Wendy Koester. So she has an extensive background in pediatric OT within schools and with community settings. But what we see her famous for a lot is her research with youth with disabilities. So with all this experience that she had, she was actually inspired to help create 2 of the first standardized assessments for children with disabilities. And these are called the Pediatric Evaluation of Disability Inventory and the School Function Assessment. And some cool facts about the Pediatric Evaluation of Disability Inventory is it was actually translated into 10 different languages and then later revised to be accessible in computer format. So it was pretty much the gold standard, as well as a school function assessment for basing and kind of judging different disabilities within the youth. So then she was also awarded AOTF's Aging Cares Research Award in 2001, where she just talked about all her findings, and then also AOTA's Eleanor Clark Slagle Lectureship Award, where she gave some background about her inspiration for these 2 measurements, as well as what they can do within the healthcare field.
And thank you for listening.
All right, nicely done, group 1. All right, we've got one more, and that's going to be group 5 with the 2010s to present day. So group 5, whenever you guys are ready.
It's not letting me screen share.
What kind of computer are you on, Nathan?
I have a Mac.
Oh, well, it should.
Let's see.
It's not letting you click on, you see where it says screen share, and then it should.
Yeah, I think it says my security settings.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me see if I can.
When I did mine, I had to allow access. I had to like insert my username and password in my computer, and then it worked.
Gotcha. Okay.
You tell me if you don't see that. I'll see if I can.
It's telling me I'm gonna have to close Zoom and reopen it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. is your presentation on Zoom? I mean, on YouTube?
It's
on
yeah,
YouTube?
it's on
Okay.
YouTube.
You want me to display it?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, we can adapt. All right. Let's see here. All right.
I just sent the link in the group, so maybe you can just click it. I mean, in the chat.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Courtney, hold on one sec. All right, here we go.
Good morning and welcome to MOT 4 Channel News. This morning we're here with OT Nathan Smith, and he'll be talking about OT legislation within the decade.
Good morning. So on March 23rd, 2010, President Barack Obama signed the Affordable Care Act. This act intended to make health insurance more affordable and more accessible to more Americans. Insurers were made to accept all applicants without charging based on pre-existing conditions. Most of the major provisions were passed in 2014, and an estimated 20 million to 24 million people were insured after passing the legislation. In the recent year, between March and April of 2020, 43 governors issued stay-at-home orders for non-essential businesses and non-essential employees. Employees of healthcare and occupational therapists included were deemed essential workers. With the recent COVID vaccine now being distributed, hopefully state legislators will soon approve opening businesses and allowing students back on campus.
Thank you, Nathan. This just in, we have an OT at the site of the Haiti earthquake from last night. Take it over, Alicia.
Thanks, Carol. I'm here as a first responder OT for the Haiti earthquake survivors. In disaster relief, as an OT, I had to prepare and design special needs shelters and train the staff and volunteers in how to assist people with disabilities. After the earthquake, my next step was to respond. To do this, I assisted with managing the shelters and facilitating support groups to decrease anxiety. It's important to help victims regain control after an uncontrollable situation. So we are trying to just help the victims get back to normalcy and participate in their occupations. Here is one of my survivors. She has injured her arm and she's unable to take care of herself. As part of the recovery process, I will be providing her services so she can rebuild her daily routine and cope with the stress that the earthquake has brought upon. Back to you, Carol.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you for letting us know what was going on in Haiti at this time. All right, now we have Miss Courtney, and she's here to talk to us about play and leisure within the decade of the 2010s.
Thank you, Carol. This decade has greatly improved in good ways and bad ways. With the invention of the iPad in 2010 brought on many problems with children no longer wanting to play outside. Although the iPad may be good for developing fine motor skills and even strengthening hand muscles, it dramatically decreased the amount of time children spend outdoors. Being outside is a very important part of developing children, while Pretty Little Liars, on the other hand, is not. Children need to be climbing, jumping, and running around to help them gain crucial parts of who they are. Occupational therapists saw this impact in therapy firsthand.
Yes, I know that's right. I know when I was growing up, we stayed outside all the time.
Always.
Yes.
Although we barely made it through the year 2012 and the Gundam style, increased stress definitely occurred among many adults and even adolescents. The world is ending theory took a big toll on many different people's mental health. Occupational therapists everywhere are beginning to realize more and more the very important role of mental health in their clients. Without good mental health, clients often don't comply with the tasks given to them by occupational therapists, and other times they may just miss the appointment altogether.
Thank you, Courtney.
During 2017 and the TV's hottest show, Riverdale, many kids and even teens joined the fandom of what we know as fidget spinners. Fidget spinners and Fortnite became an instant hit among everyone, even though fidget spinners were designed to help those with ADHD and anxiety. Along with these problems, fidget spinners helped with fine motor skills and pinch grip strengths. These toys can still be found in occupational therapy clinics to this day. However, the dance flossing cannot. As many of you know, the impact of 2020 was greatly affected by none other than Tiger King. That's right, folks, Tiger King pandemic had everyone just as confused. Along with Tiger King was the beginning of the virus known as COVID-19. COVID-19 and its quarantine has affected many people's lives. However, are we looking deep enough into the effects quarantine has had on newborn babies? The birth rate for US in 2020 was 11.99 births per 1,000 people, and that is a 0.09% increase from 2019. Babies born during this time are missing crucial parts of development that can only be found when playing with other children their age. As they grow, they may need to see an occupational therapist to help gain these milestones that they may have missed during this devastating time.
Oh yes, I've heard that skin-to-skin therapy is a crucial
Very
part
crucial.
in a
yes.
baby's first years.
Yes, very, very crucial.
And that fortnight, my kids will stay on that all night long. But thank you, Courtney. And she's been on MOT Channel 4 News, and we're gonna break to commercial.
And this year's 2016 Best Actor Oscar Award goes to Leonardo DiCaprio. Woo! Woo!
It's about time.
Oppa Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppa Gangnam Style.
Hit the phone, don't stop, hey, don't stop, hey, don't stop, hey, when I'm on that.
Tell me, are you riding? Say you never ever leave from beside me. 'Cause I want you and I need you. I'm down for you always, baby.
Welcome back to MOT Channel 4 News, and here we have Miss Alicia, and she's here to talk to us about the recent work trends within the past decade. So, tell us, how have we recovered from this recession?
So the 2010s had the greatest number of jobs created in the United States, and the unemployment rate went from 17.1% to 6.7%. We also saw more women in the workplace. Another major trend this decade was e-commerce. A lot of businesses and shopping moved to online platforms. Professional networking is also now done through LinkedIn and other platforms.
I know I've used LinkedIn to get this job.
Coming specifically to OT, with OT being a recession-proof job, there were 137,000 OT practitioners in 2010. Early in the decade, World OT Day was launched on October 27th, 2010 to promote and celebrate our profession. The needs of the aging population has also increased. Some examples of these are low vision, assisted living, and older driver safety and rehab. Another big thing this decade for the OTs was that we achieved licensure in all 50 states for OTs in 2015 and for OTAs in 2016. However, things did take a turn this past year due to the coronavirus pandemic. From having sessions in person, we now have sessions through telehealth. And for those who don't have access to go virtual, we had our sessions through phone call and text. You know, we're OTs and it's our job to adapt, and that's what we did.
Yeah, I know there has been a few cases where parents or children didn't have the access to the internet or phone access. So things have been very hard in this pandemic. Yes, thank you, Alicia.
Ooh, my blogger posted the new Lululemons. I need to order those. And express delivery.
Plenty of technological advances within the past decade that have definitely made an impact worldwide. Instant messaging, for example, has come to play along with instant messaging within the workplace. I've seen firsthand the difference that IM, also known as instant messaging, has come and helped with quicker communication between different businesses and customers, as well as their own four walls. Not only has instant messaging been incorporated, but the social media app Instagram touched base within 2010. It certainly changed the way we talked, what we wore outside, meals we ate, and who we were even seen with. Social media has been a life changer, some for the best and others, well, Recent reports have shown an increasing spike of technological use within rehabilitation. Phones have gone from easier to hold models to slicker than ice, drop right out of my hand. Within the past several years, the iPad has incorporated much easier use than the iPods that were just formerly used for music alone. A recent development of an application called Tamako was created by Dr. Sarah Tresser, OTR, to help children with special needs. It uses motion-based technology. The games respond to children's movements, and it has given occupational therapists an interactive tool to help motivate motor and communication abilities. With music being used as a form of therapy to some, Bluetooth capabilities have made things wire-free, which creates less of a hazard to anyone using them, especially those with fine motor disadvantages. Not only have the electronic companies improved their software and made it more user-friendly, some things you don't even have to touch, such as the voice command personal assistants. Depending on the brand and how you're feeling, they're known as Alexa or Siri. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for reading with us today, Carol.
It's been such a long day. I just want to relax a little bit. So much easier now to watch a movie these days instead of going to Blockbuster. Just pull up some Netflix.
Hi, welcome back to MOT Channel 4 News, and we're here with Emma, and she's going to tell us about the different education changes within the society in the past decade.
Thanks, Carol. Nearly 10 years ago, in 2011, a group of 30 academic and practice leaders were appointed to become a group of Future Education Ad Hoc Committee of the AOTA. 2 years later, in February of 2013, this committee recommended a mandate for a doctoral degree as a single point of entry for occupational therapists. However, the ad hoc committee did not endorse the task group recommendation to move forward on the entry-level degree of the AOTAs to become the bachelor's level and the OTs to a doctoral. Rather, they recommended that the AOTA adopt a mandate for the change to occur by 2017 and all academic program transitions by 2020. This recommendation did pass. In August of 2017, the mandate was in order with the exception that the requirement of the transition date be postponed to the year of 2027. What this meant was OTs had a 10-year period to transition to the doctoral level and OTAs to the bachelor level. Just a few short months after receiving these recommendations to reconsider their mandate, there was a change made. Various stakeholders expressed many concerns regarding these entry-level educational changes. As of June to August of 2018, this decision was only confirmed by the collective data that was presented, which best supported that educational requirements of OTAs should remain at the current educational level. Continuing the back and forth negotiation of adapting a change in educational requirements, in October 2018, the ADCO accepted the AOTA's ambiance of the 2027 mandate requiring all entry-level OT programs to transition to the doctorate level. After the creation of the task force in 2018, they released a report stating that the external issues surrounding the entry-level degree for OT and OTAs were the varying reimbursements for OT practitioner may cause a significant amount of issues that will impact academic programs and student enrollment in the future, such as the salary changes in question. This is a concern that's highly correlated with the level of degree that the OT and OTA students would acquire. It was also suggested that this concept could cause other damaging aspects to the career field, such as limiting the demographic of practitioners. Following the spring AOTA meeting of 2019, the vote was to support dual entry-level degrees. OTs will continue to remain having the option to receive an entry-level master's or doctoral degree, and OTAs may earn an entry-level associate's or bachelor's degree. And in most recent educational news, the impact of COVID-19 on education. Due to the unprepared shift from face-to-face to distant teaching and learning, there is a consensus that there are negative effects on student learning and university economics. Students have found it challenging to remain engaged and comprehend while participating in distant learning. The pandemic has also caused an economic shift in higher education. As distant learning continues in the upcoming generations, they'll most likely stray away from paying heavy tuition costs and fees to receive a far from satisfactory typical college experience. University life is typically sought out for the full experience, both educational and social.
Thank you, Emma. I know my boys at home, they miss the college life. I mean, it also just has brought an uproar, of the youth and them wondering why they're still having to pay full tuition. But thank you, Emma. Education in 2010s.
I'm starting the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge in order to raise awareness for ALS disease. I now nominate Dr. Lancaster.
Hi, it's the year 2020. COVID-19 has impacted us all. Families upon families have been impacted and deeply hurt. This pandemic has brought across new social distancing measures and new rehab measures. Here's a look at what some things have changed. This has not been easy. This has been hard. There's no social interaction. This is COVID.
Well, thanks for joining us today at MOT4 News.
At home.
Wait, we're still recording.
We have a Kahoot, but I don't know if we have time or if it will work. I think I got it fixed though.
You guys you're really, wait a minute, you're really right at like 17 minutes. So we may need to save it, but I have a link, I'm pretty sure. So I'll roll that into a future class session. How about that?
Okay.
Okay, well done. That was really fun. Okay. Thank you, guys. All right. So today I don't have a PowerPoint or handout, so don't worry about that. Well, I don't have a note-taking guide, but there are some handouts. So if you would, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we come back. You should be logged in on Blackboard on today's course content, and that's where we'll start. So let's come back at 10:50. All right. Welcome back, everybody. I'm trying to. Okay. So let's actually misspoke. I forgot. I do have a basic slides for today, just to kind of keep me on task. So we're going to talk about professional development, or sometimes in this program we call it the PD or the PDE process, and that last E stands for evaluation. So you might hear us say that, sorry, and I'm sure you probably already did hear me say that. So this is part of our ACOTE standards. So it's part of what we are as faculty bound to teach you guys about while you're an OT student. So some of this information is covered in class, but it's really kind of an extracurricular or outside of class assignment. Sorry, I don't know what's happening with me. So these slides are right as I'm looking at them. They're in today's course content folder. The goal of our program, so the outcome goal, or what we hope to achieve by the time each one of you graduates, is for you to be an ethically grounded entry-level OT practitioner with a strong OT identity whose practices are occupation and client-centered. We want you to be evidence-based, scholarly clinicians and prepared to serve as leaders or change agents wherever you are. So part of that, a lot of that happens in the classroom and in what you do for your courses. But there's an added component to that, and that's what the professional development process targets, or the PD process. So for this is a, it's like a behavioral expectations of every student. And there are certain skills that fall under the 4 main areas that we have in this PD process. So here are the 4 main areas, and you can see how those tie exactly into our program outcome goals. And I'm going to show you the skills that are under each of those competency areas in just a minute. But so here's how the PD process works in our program. So here we are in term 1 right now, and you are just getting introduced to this process. The other thing that will happen, and we're going to kick this off today, is you're going to get a look at those specific skills that we have to see evidence of from each of you while you're an OT student. And then I'm going to have you write or get started writing 2 goals for yourself for your own professional development. And we actually have a workshop coming up in leadership that I'm going to go to too. We're going to co-teach it, Dr. Zachary and I, and we'll have another chance to kind of get feedback on the goals that you're writing, and kind of beef them up and make sure they're measurable and realistic and all those things. So we're just kicking this off today, and then we'll have a workshop in OT 431 leadership, and that's when you'll finalize the 2 or 3 PDE goals that you're going to set for yourself from now until term 2. Now, term 2 in the fall, you will meet with your advisor and you'll talk about the goals that you set, how's it going on that, and where do you need to go from here. So at the end of term 2, we will walk you through the process of writing new goals. So kind of we'll have you do a self-assessment, which I'll show you today, and you'll get some feedback from the faculty on that, from your mentor, and then you'll rewrite those goals. In term 3, you'll keep plugging away at the goals, and in term 4, which you have half a term 4, the reason that's orange with the purple outline is because the first half of term 4, you're still in classes on campus, and you'll kind of finish up working on those goals that you have. Now, when you leave campus around October 1st and go out on level 2 field work, and that's kind of what I have as purple on this slide, the process changes. What you move into from this basic professional development process is an advanced professional development process, or APDE. You will learn all about that in your Leadership 2 course that you have with me right before you leave campus. So in term 4, the beginning of term 4. But essentially what happens in the advanced development process is I will help you set up a website as a portfolio, a digital or online portfolio, and you will put in stuff that shows each of the 4 areas of professional development, these 4 areas. You'll show evidence from your level 2 field work that you are able to perform as an entry-level practitioner with each of these qualities. So don't worry about the advanced professional development process. You'll have everything you need to know. We'll set up your blog, your website, the whole thing in towards the end of your time on campus. So what I do want to show you now is I have actually provided these forms for you, but I want to show you where to find them in case you end up needing to access those yourself, or if somebody says, oh, that's on Blackboard, I want to show you where that is. So let me go from those slides. Now, if you go to Blackboard, so if you get out of this class, you'll see under my courses all the different things all the different courses that you have. If you look under development courses, you should have a little tab that says that. This course is a course, but it's really kind of a repository for things related to the professional development process. It's not an actual class that you'll take, but it's under MOTPDE. And so if you click on that, it'll take you to this. And what you want to look at is PDE documents. So that's where you'll go and you'll see all this stuff that I'm about to give you. But for today, what you need, and you'll be able to access everything in this course through the end of the term, so through June 30th. So you could come back and get them later just right here on this course. But if you are in session 11 folder, so you have the slides, and what you will need to look at next will be, you have the guidelines for service hours. So let's talk about that next. If you click on these things, they're going to download to your to your desktop. So let me pull one of those up because I didn't want to put it in there as a PDE because then you can't add to it as easily. So, all right. So here is what I want to show you. This explains all the guidelines for the professional development or service hours. We've talked about this a little bit, but here's the official guidelines. So typically, students are required in our program to complete a minimum of 75 hours while you're on campus. 75 professional development hours, but don't panic. We realize that that's harder than usual to do right now with COVID and not being on campus, and a lot of stuff in the community has changed or gone virtual or not happening. So we modified about this time last year, well, really, and towards the end of March last year, we modified it to where every student has to get 10 hours per term. So you'll need 40 total for each of the 4 terms. And that's all before you go out on level 2 field work. So the types of professional development you can do public service, or we think of that as community service. And here's some examples. If you serve a meal at Ronald McDonald House, if you volunteer at an aid station for an event and wear your OT t-shirt, that stuff is repping our program and in our profession. You also, of course, can go to SOTA Club meetings. You can go to hear guest speakers that SOTA has. The COTAD chapter has things going on, and PTE things like the Jeopardy game last week. Any of that stuff you attend, put a clock on it and record, to the nearest quarter hour. You can also, there's a lot of stuff online you can do. And if you look at that professional development opportunities that SOTA sends out pretty much every week, there's a lot of stuff on there. If you are attending the COTAD Ignite session tonight with me, then you can count that as 2 hours. So there's 10 hours may or may not seem like a lot to you, but I assure you there are plenty of opportunities to get it. Even if you are just wanting to do online and you don't feel comfortable going in the community, like going to work at the food bank or something like that. If you attend any kind of board meeting, or even if you present to a high school or another group, and you could present virtually, the time you spend on that, and you can count it. Now, here's what you can't count. You cannot count your travel time, driving from your house to wherever you're going. That doesn't count. You cannot spend or count time you spend planning, like getting dressed for it, or if you are emailing somebody about an opportunity, you can't count that time. Now, if something is required for a course, you can't count that. Like if I had a guest, like when we had the guest speaker, Dr. Kiesling last week, that's for this class. That's not extra professional development. And lastly, we don't allow people to donate things instead of spending their time. So those are things that we've had asked in the past. And so to keep people from wondering or prevent repeated questions about the same thing, there's that.
Dr. Lancaster?
Yes.
Is COTAD like part of it?
Yes. Okay. So if you attend that COTAD event tonight, or if you go to the COTAD chapter meetings with Allie Nance, the stuff she's got going on, that does count. So you keep up with it though. So where do you turn that in? I'm about to show you the form, but where do you turn that in? People ask that a lot. So this term, I'm going to ask you at the end of the term, I'm going to ask you to turn this in. I'm going to ask you again in the last term on campus when you have me for Leadership 2. And Professor Flick will be the one getting that in term 2 and 3. So let's see. Would the prison speaker, Dr. Barney? Yes, because that was outside of class. That was like a SOTA brown bag or guest speaker, any of that kind of stuff. You guys did have to donate money for the PTE Jeopardy, but you also attended. So my thing in saying you can't do donations is you can't just give $10 and then not go to something. So yes, you can count the hour we spent playing that Jeopardy game. And yes, any guest speakers through SOTA or through COTAD chapter, that counts. So there's a lot of stuff like that you don't have to even leave your house, or you don't have to leave campus to go to. Now, I'll tell you this, if you feel like you can't find something, or if you're worried about, like, I need another idea, I just didn't make it to any of this stuff, just talk to me and I'll tell you, or talk to somebody in SOTA or somebody in the class above you, and they'll give you a bunch of choices. So here under that is the form. So you would write, like spring 21, something like that. You would write the date, and then a description of what you did. Okay. Then how many hours? And again, do it to the quarter hour. Don't do like 1 hour, 8 minutes or 7.5 minutes or whatever, do, round up or down to that. So if you spent like an hour and a quarter doing something. And then here's a big one. What did you get? How did what you did or attended, how did that help your professional development? So the PTE Jeopardy game, it can be something basic like that. And then for this column, what I want you to do, I'm about to show you where you get this information. It comes from a different form. All right, so let me stop that. Let me get that next form out. So that's the form you will turn in at the end of each term or towards the end of each term. That'll show us that you're doing that 10 hours minimum. Okay, so here is, okay. Here's the other form. Now, this is the form that you will fill out on yourself. So it's called the student evaluation form or the student form. When you meet with your mentor, you meet individually at the end of term 2. And what we're going to ask you to do is go through each of these things and think about where you are if you're rated. I'm trying to find it. If you're rated as, I need to add the rating system to this, but if you are rated as being like it's an area of need, you're kind of behind on it, or if you're right there where you need to be, or maybe even you've excelled, it's like really a strength for you. I'll add the rating to this and repost it, but oh wait, maybe it's going to tell you. Okay, I forgot. Dr. Weiserpike made these fillable forms. So let's look at the first one. This is under occupation and client-centered practitioner. That's the area, competency area or category. Now the skill that we want you to be able to do is to openly and actively listen using nonverbal communication in a way that demonstrates caring, empathetic, and non-judgmental attitude. So do you do that? Yes or no? We all probably think we do that pretty well. So maybe I'm going to say we are proficient in that. We're good on that. But how do I know? What's something that I do or have done that can show me that? So I'm going to say practice interview and active listening techniques on 4 other people and got positive feedback. So see how that might work. That's something I did to get better at my professional development and how I know that I'm proficient in that. Okay, remains open to differences and recognizes own biases while appreciating the uniqueness of individuals. So I'm going to say I'm still learning about that. One thing I did to help myself with that is I took an implicit bias test, which you guys are going to take in this class. I also attended 3 COTAD chapter events this term. So that's how I know that I'm working on my own biases. See how that works? And so you just go down the next category, being ethically grounded with a strong OT identity, and there's skills and all that. Same here and all that. So you're going to read through that. And before you come to the workshop for Leadership 1 that's coming up, I'm going to have you as an assignment for that to actually write out 2 or 3 goals for yourself. So let me show you that. Hold on one second. I used to just tell students, okay, go ahead and see what you can come up with. But what I found out is they just were really struggling for that. So I made some example goals. and you have those on Blackboard, and you can look at those. Now you can use mine, but definitely make sure it's customized to you if needed, and you don't have to use mine. These are just examples. So here's some things you might do. So if we're thinking about that first area, and then the first competency, well, let's say the second competency skill, the one I just read about biases. Here it is. Now, if I know that I'm still emerging, I'm still working on my skills in that area, what I might say, something I'm going to do, an action that's measurable for me, I'm going to say that I'm going to read an article or watch a TED Talk about bias and discuss it with another person before September 1st. You also could say that you're going to attend and participate in 2 COTAD chapter events or 1 COTAD event, something like that. If you look here, here's another one. Focuses on the client's beliefs, values, and goals. All right, well, I think I'm decent at that. So maybe I'm going to give myself emerging. And something else I'm going to do to continue to learn about that is I'm going to read something about a religion other than my own on a resource like otcultures.weebly.com, something like that. You might just, find something on Buddhism, or you might find something on anything. You might find something on Asian culture if you don't know a lot about that, or Chinese culture. Lots of that. I'm going to talk to you guys more about culture in the next couple of weeks, but there's many things you could do, and you're just trying to know more about and increase your own cultural humility about so that you are more client-centered. So lots of examples there. And the last form I'll show you is that you have, and that is the goal writing form. So it's also in your list of things. I would just download everything in that folder today and keep it in another folder, maybe that says PDE or professional development or something like that. The last, you will fill out the self-eval just when you are asked to. So you won't do it this term. You can look at it and, make notes on it or whatever, but I won't ask you to turn it in yet. When you will have to turn it in will be to your mentor next term, towards the end of term 2. So you really I feel like you don't quite have enough data yet to fill it out. You need to see yourself more as an OT student. But then when you fill it out, and so for the workshop that's coming up, and then you'll do this again in December, you're going to use this form that is called professional development goals, and you will select the competency area. So one of the 4 areas, right? Then you're going to select the criteria. So remember that, like the number 2 criteria was about addressing your own biases. And then you're going to type in a goal. So maybe you're going to attend 2 COTAD events. And you're going to start on March 1st, or, you could say today. Let's see, I think this calendar comes down. Yep. Okay, maybe I'm going to start tomorrow. And I want to complete that, though, by, we'll say August 1st. And then I'm going to probably do something else before there. And so when I do it, I'm going to put a note here. And maybe I'm going to do it. Maybe I'll even do it, early. You never know. And then I would put another goal in since that one would be completed. So that's how you'll do that. At that workshop, we will have, you'll have lots of feedback, and we'll kind of work on those together. I'm just going to ask you to come prepared with 2 or 3 ideas for goals that are written out, and then we'll help you kind of fine tune them in that workshop. So that is the gist of the PD process that you need to be aware of right now. So for right now, you're going to make sure to put stuff in your service log or professional development log, and then start thinking about those professional development skills and 2 or 3 things that you might put in as goals when we ask you for that. Any questions or comments about that? I know that's kind of a lot of information, but it is all there in writing, and we'll talk about it much more. Any questions or comments about that stuff? I have a feeling somebody must have a question.
I know some people put some in the chat.
Okay, let me see. Yep. Okay, so I think I got those, but every once in a while I have trouble multitasking. So SOTA guest speakers, COTAD guest speakers, all that stuff counts. The Jeopardy counts. And no, you don't fill out the self-eval this term. You will fill it out at the end of next term. And then that's really kind of the only time you'll do it. Going from there, you'll kind of have a record of your areas of strength and your areas of need. But you will do goals several times, 2 or 3 times during your time in OT school. So, and that's going to be the same when you're in OT. I mean, every faculty member, we all meet in December or January every year, and we all put professional development goals down, and we go back and look at what our goals were before, and we assess that. Did we meet it? Yes or no? You know, that sort of thing. Cassidy says, do we have to do events in all 3 sections, or can some be from the same one? When you mean, do you mean for your professional development log, Cassidy? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, like, for the categories, if I got 2 in professional development, and 1 in leadership, but I didn't get something public service, does it still count as hours, or do you have to get hours in each one?
You do not have to, and that's a recent change. You might, I'm guessing you might have heard one of the 2s or more than one of them say but what we kind of found is that sometimes there's just not opportunities to do. Oftentimes when you go to something, you could count it in more than one category. And I think people are getting kind of, that stresses people out rather than just pick one. We don't care that much about that. We just put that in there as ways for you to think about doing those different getting your hours. But you can really just, okay. Yeah. That's all right, Mackenzie. That you can put it in any category. We're just looking for the total is really what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way. You know, I can assure you, we do not try to be nitpicky with that. We used to have a column in there that said sign off on it, and students would get so incredibly stressed out about that, because sometimes they would do something and there wouldn't be a faculty member or like somebody else that's in charge of it. Like if a bunch of y'all went and, you know, did an OT awareness booth or, you know, something like that, and none of us were there, then they would be like, well, who's going to sign off on it? So we really just did away with that. This is all kind of part of your, you know, your honor code. So you use your honor system and don't lie about it. If you have a question about them, you always can ask me, even after this class or anytime, like, hey, does this thing count? One question that students ask a good bit is, do you have to do something that is on that SOTA list, or that I tell you about or another faculty member? And absolutely not. You may even be, you know, in another state for something, and, you know, or maybe it's over a holiday break and you're not even around here, and you see something that seems like it would be good professional development, go to it, you know, as long as you can justify it in your head. Or if I did say, oh, tell me about this. It looks like you went to the Shriners Circus. Tell me about that. How was that connected to your professional development? And if you can answer that in your head or to somebody else, then it's all good. If you're worried about it though, you can always ask me. Anything else?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay, hit me.
So all of the soda meetings count for 1 hour, right? Or 30 minutes?
However long you're actually in there.
Okay.
Most of them are 30, sometimes they're 45. Usually they don't start till 12:15, so you usually wouldn't have an hour, but
Okay. And then the Coda D series, like the one that's happening tonight, I know that it says it's like a 4-part session. How does that work? Do you have to register for all of them?
you're talking about the COTAD Ignite event. Is that right? This tonight. Okay, I'm not sure where it said 4-part series. This one is a 3-part, but all that to say you have to register for each one. You could go to 1, you can go to 2, you can go to 3. So it's just up to you. They're all related to the same topic, is why we say it's in a series.
Okay.
I thought I registered for it like back in January, but when I clicked on it last night, I couldn't find like a link or anything in my email.
So I bet it's in there now. So I'm in charge of that event. So I got the insider scoop for you guys. We do not give out the link until the day of because we are worried about Zoom bombers. That's we haven't had a Zoom bomber come in a COTAD event, but last year there was one in an AOTA event that somebody got the link, some random person who wasn't nice got the link and logged in and started saying all kind of racial slurs. And you could imagine what our faces, those of us on the call, I mean, looked like. And we were all texting each other like, do you hear that? You know, something on some weirdo on the Zoom, and this like robot voice was saying really nasty things. And like the people running the meeting didn't know what to do. And finally we just all logged out. So that's why. And I set the automatic message to go out at 11 o'clock our time. So it should probably be in your inbox now. If it's not, check your spam folder because sometimes it goes to your spam. But if you registered, it should be coming to you right about now. So I hope you guys can make it. It's going to be we have, just so you know, almost 500 people registered for that event. So very cool to see that momentum and that inspiration or interest from people in our profession. Registration it always closes 24 hours before the event starts. Again, partially for the Zoom bombing reason and partially because we have to control our numbers because we have a limited seats by Zoom. So I will also tell you that registration, give it another, if you don't have the email yet, check your spam folder and then give it another maybe 30 minutes and then let me know if it's not there and I'll double check it through Eventbrite. But the registration for the second event, which is in 2 weeks, opens tonight at 7:30. And we'll do that for the third one too. So we open it during the preceding event. So we sort of prompt people in the event to register. So, all right. And they're going to be, even after those 3, there'll be more. We have COTAD conversations. Sometimes we'll get people that are pretty big deal in the field to come and present on topics and things like that. So we have stuff like that all the time, and we try to make it very open access and free. So it's not a cost barrier to people. And your COTAD chapter's having really good stuff too. So stay tuned for that stuff. Anything else? All right. So if you think of something else, you can always ask me. I want to, since we have a little time here and there, I want to ask you guys, to play a Kahoot. So let me see here. Let's see what I got.
Dr. Lancaster?
Yes.
I just checked my email for the Zoom link and I don't have it. It's not in my junk mail either.
Okay. Every once in a while, it takes a little bit of time for it to go out. So wait until about noon and then check it. And just email me or text me or whatever if we get past noon and you don't have it. I always register for the events myself, so I watch for it in my inbox too. So just let me know. But let's get a little. Okay, cool. All right. So what group has a Kahoot that we haven't played? Trying to remember.
I know my group does. I can try to pull up the PowerPoint with the link if you want me to.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that would be great.
Okay, let me see.
Make sure I'm stopped sharing. All right, and I'm gonna actually